Today, we're going to help you to recognize the various types of comprehension test questions that you can expect. Now, the questions in your comprehension test are carefully designed to be of certain categories of or levels of difficulty. Now, the first category are the literal and the reorganization questions. Now, that comprises 40% of your paper. In other words, if you can conquer this section or these questions in your paper and you can answer them properly and well, you can get 40% in the exam. Now, why we call them literal and reorganization questions and why we call them category A is because they require of you just to recognize certain information in the text. It is there. All you need to do is to go and get it and rephrase it in your own words or whatever, depending on what kind of question you are asked. But the answer is there. You just need to go and fetch it, right? So the literal is you literally just have to go and get the answer somewhere from a certain paragraph. It's clear, it's there. To reorganize just means to list that or to put it in an order of importance, for instance, but it's there. You can just go and fetch it. So category A are sort of your easier questions, and you're going to find them towards the beginning of your comprehension test. However, a word of caution. Although these questions count only 2 marks, don't rush over them. Don't disregard them as unimportant, because remember, every 2 marks adds to your total mark eventually. And if you answer that 2-mark question well, perfect, then you've got the 2 marks. So look out for those easier type of questions, but don't forget to read your question properly, to answer it fully, and to answer it in your own words as far as possible. 40% then. So the literal questions will more or less look like this. They will be questions asking you to name certain things, so you're going to fetch it, right? To describe certain things. The thing is there, and the aspect is there. You just need to say what it is and make it a bit clearer as to what it is, but it's there. There's nothing difficult about it. Identify, just find this aspect. Questions that say, what is the first thing that scared the author, for instance? Have a look. Oh, the first thing. Here it is. I find it. I write it down. So the information for literal questions, that's the very first. There are five types of questions, but the literal and the reorganization are all part of category 1. These questions are the answers are actually explicitly stated in the text. You could just go and find them. For instance, why does the speaker perceive her failure as having a benefit? This person might have said in the text that this terrible thing happened to me, but it gave me the opportunity to think about my life, and I pulled myself up by my own bootstrings and went on. So find it, it's there, right? That's the literal. It's the first part of the first category. Also part of the first category are the reorganization questions. Once again, the answer is explicitly stated in your text. You need to go and fetch it, but you just need to perhaps reorganize it slightly in an order of importance or in order of whatever is asked in the question. So they might ask you to summarize the main ideas in the first paragraph. So what are you doing? You're getting the ideas. It's there. but you are just reorganizing it into a different format. You are summarizing it. State the similarities or the differences between. So it's also there. You must just go and find it. Just a little bit of reorganization, but it's still part of category 1. It's the easier type of question that you will answer for 1 or 2 marks, usually 2. Where you have to group the elements. Easy to just go and group elements that go together. You are just taking the information and putting it in order or putting it in a group. So what is the main difference between the 2 paragraphs? Easy to go and analyze and synthesize and say, this is what the one says, that is what the other one says. And it's clear as daylight that the main difference is this or that. It's clear, it's there. You must just go and rephrase it, reorganize it. These are sort of lower order questions for everybody to do and to really try and get full marks for, at least. They are usually out of 2 marks. The only exception will perhaps be in the case of a multiple choice question, for instance. There will be maximum 1 multiple choice question in your comprehension test, if so, but then that will be a 1 question. Or where they say, quote 1 word for, to prove something. But maximum 1 of such a type of question, but that will be out of 1. Usually these will be out of 2 marks. Now we get the category B, which also comprises 40% of the paper. In other words, this is going to bring you up to 80% of the total of the paper. So now the inference questions are also very doable. You have to engage with the text. You have to look at what the text gives you. What is there explicitly said? But now what is required of you is, from what you now know, I now know this about the man. He did this and he did that and he talks like this and that. What, from all these things that was said about this man in this text, what can you infer? What kind of person is this man? It is not said in the text what kind of person he is, but he does certain things. So you can infer from what he does, from his actions, what kind of person he is, or whether you think it is likely that he could have been the culprit, because you infer from everything that you read, it is impossible, for instance, that he could have been the killer, for instance, because you inferred it from the evidence right in front of your eyes. Cannot have any other inference. You just have to infer. You go 1 step further in terms of comprehension, right? So that takes you up to 40%. The questions will usually be out of 2. It could also be out of 3 in the inference category. Now, for the inference questions, for instance, this is what you can expect. It will be expected of you to engage with the information, as I said. You must now become a bit more involved with the information given to you. So you engage with it. It is not explicitly stated, but easy to derive from whatever you have. And you can also draw from your personal experience to add to your understanding and your inference. So that is how you get to your answer. So you can, for instance, be asked to explain the cause of. Right. So let's say the text is about a guy who had to meet his girlfriend at a certain time, and in the morning everything went wrong. His car wouldn't start, and his neighbor came along, and he went home to fetch some tools, and it took too long, and blah, blah, blah. And this guy comes he gets to his appointment with his girlfriend 20 minutes late. Now, nothing has been said yet, about what his girlfriend is thinking or anything, but she just has an irritated look on her face, right? Doesn't say why she's irritated, we don't know. But you can infer from the situation, this guy is late for his appointment, that she is probably irritated because of his lateness. It might be proved later on that she was irritated because of a different reason. But I mean, you can infer from the circumstances that that might be the case. That's inference questions. You infer. Explain the main idea in that passage is, say, the main idea in that paragraph is about him not being able to get into the car and drive, that his worries about being late, etc. Explain it. The explanation will be an inference. In other words, why was he so anxious in that paragraph? Because of his car that's not working. It might be because it is the first actual date that he has arranged with his girlfriend, and he wanted to make a good impression. That is perhaps the inference that you are making. It's not said there, but you can infer. You can, for instance, get this question: what does a certain action reveal about something or someone? Or what does a facial expression, the girl, reveal about her inner state? It reveals that she is feeling irritated, and why? Because she's looking at him not in a very pleasing way, etc. Whatever you want to give as an example. But you infer, right, from what you have in front of you. Then we get the final category, which is category C, and there are also two parts to that, the type of question that you can get there. It's called the category C because out of category C, there must be 20% of questions. And the whole idea is that you can actually, up to this point, by merely looking at information and inferring from information, you can get 80% for this question paper. If you really think well, and you look at your question words and your instruction words and your key elements and you answer fully, you can get 80%. So why this 20%? This 20% is really the discriminating questions. They call them the discriminators. In other words, that is going to really be the factor that's going to either get you like an 88 or a 90 or 100. But it's for everybody. But the point is that it does require from you a higher order of thinking and responding. And that is sort of like, as I said, a higher order question. And they comprise evaluation and appreciation questions. Now, evaluation just means that you now, based on what you've got in front of you in the text and based on what you've inferred from the text and so on, you are now going to evaluate and judge and say whether this is good or bad, morally correct. Is it sustainable? Is it reasonable? Is it realistic? Can you see? It requires of you a higher order of thinking about what you have in front of you. And that's really all it means. And there's no reason why you cannot also get full marks for these, because it's not really that difficult. Because it does entail your own judgment, and remember that it's sort of your own opinion, but it's an informed opinion. It's not just a wild opinion, an informed opinion. And very often in these questions, when you're asked, do you agree, or in your own opinion, you can say, I don't agree. Or you can say, yes, I do agree. My answer is yes, or my answer is no. And both those must be accepted. Even if you have a mixed response, I feel basically yes, but, and you can. The thing is, whether you say yes or whether you say no, whether you agree or whether you think it's good or bad, whatever you say, good, bad, whatever you choose, you must substantiate that in a proper substantiation. It must be a proper discussion of why you have that opinion. I disagree because, right? So, and you get your full mark, you get no marks for saying yes or saying no. So don't think you're going to get a tick for yes, a tick for no, or I agree or no mark. But for the substantiation afterwards, you get awarded the full 3 marks, for instance, if you have a proper substantiation. So these are usually for 3 marks, sometimes for 4 marks. If these questions require you to refer to 2 texts, make sure that both the texts are mentioned somewhere in your discussion. And it must be a proper analysis or a proper discussion or a critical analysis or critical discussion of what is required in the question. So these, as I said, require longer answers and a proper thought out answer. And however, even if it's a 4 mark question, don't answer it more than 7 to 8 max lines. Don't go using paragraphs for that. Answer once again to the point. Look at the instruction, but bring in those aspects of evaluation, judgment, and appreciation. Has to do with what did you like about it or what didn't you like about it, or do you think, say, the imagery used here or the diction used, it is effective or ineffective. I say it's effective, but then I must give my explanation why I say so. And if that's substantial enough, you get the full 3 marks. You don't have to go and say 1, 2, 3 things. It must just be a proper, substantiated response. Remember then that evaluation questions deal with judgments. It has to do with values, with facts, with opinions. Is it realistic? Is it credible? Is it valid? Is it logic? Is it desirable? Is it acceptable? All those things. Those are the 20% questions, those higher order ones. So, for instance, evaluate whether an argument is logical or whether a story is realistic. Do you think you're going to get those words? The extractives, a realistic insight. Is it realistic? Think about it. Give an answer, right? Appreciation questions is where, as I said, you assess your emotional response. Did you like it? Did it appeal to you? Was it good? Was it bad? What do you think? But explain why. How effective do you find, you see, the imagery that is used in the last sentence? Substantiate your answer. That's the kind of question that I'm talking about. You can expect these kinds of higher order questions towards the end of your exercise. For instance, like, what would your response have been if that happened? Do you think the character made a correct decision? Discuss the effectiveness of the writer's use of imagery in. Note the difference between this and that, and discuss and critically discuss. Those are the words to look out for in these higher order questions. So basically then, the balance of the questions in your paper, 40%, very easy, it's explicit. 40%, it's explicit, but I have to infer. And 20%, I have to judge, I have to appreciate, and critically evaluate. And that comprises your comprehension type questions.